honestly, I'm going to be totally honest with you that I am a little honest. I am a little nervous. I feel a little bit like, I feel a little bit like you listen, and also like you might be just somewhere else, because I don't get a lot from you, even though you're my producer. That's the whole, I mean, that's the idea. You know, let's just keep going on with this. Oh shit. We could fix that in post, right? Okay. Yeah, we'll just, it's fine. Oh, mask. There's a mask. We can fix it in post. I don't have to stop and restart. Oh, la, la, la. Okay. Whee! Gotta shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. A little nervous, are we? Okay, let's do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome to our classroom. I am Mr. Peck, Wesley Peck. You can call me Mr. West, you can call me Wes, you can call me Wesley. I actually would prefer if you don't call me Wes, because that's what they call my dad. And it feels a little weird, but people just kind of, anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? Anyway, let's share the screen. I didn't share the screen. Shit. Oops. I'm going to try to not use profanity for the rest of this video, even though it is a college course video. Anyway, we're trying to be world-facing here. I am currently speaking to you. I have the honor of speaking to you from the traditional lands of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. This is currently known as San Francisco, and we all. Those of us here know what that means. Very few of us know what Ramaytush Ohlone means. Anyway, I'm going to open up the playlist first, because that's my timer, and I've already gone over time. So let's do that first, friends. Shall do this. bit.ly/ what do we call it? AWP Autobio SED 790. That's what we called it. Yeah, of course. Because when we're nervous, we can't remember everything. So we'll just let the browser do it for us. Okay, so what I was going to do was lip sync for you the first song, which is 1921 by The Who, and we'll just skip right over that, and we'll start with that song, Bad Religion. And it is currently at background level. I'm going to assume that this is the right background level because my students have selected it on Zoom. And so this is what our classroom looks like when we come in. There's a playlist of some kind. And what we're listening to is a bunch of music that is very influential in my life. And whatever we listen to and hear, that's really the language that we acquire. And these were really influential things for me. All of these albums, except for I didn't know the album. This is just this one song is my very favorite song from growing up. There's an album of a collection album called Legends, Bob Marley and the Wailers, that this was from, it's very important to me. Donde Están los Ladrones was very important to me in high school. I don't know this album, but this is a dance song and I'm a gay boy, so that's from late 90s, early 2000s. This album has changed my freaking life in the recent weeks. Straight Outta Oz by Todrick Hall. And then we're doing a lesson around the 1998 Nagano Olympics that I just invented last night, this week before our spring break. So that's why that's on there. So it's just like a little tour of my brain, which is there's a lot in my brain. And it's like a file cabinet of songs and phrases that people, anyway. Sorrow. I'm going to time this by letting the playlist time for me. I'm going to try to tell you some stories. I'm going to try to do some things and just try to make it not so long that you want to check out entirely. If you, there will be a way to skip forward, and I'm not going to spy it. It burns down, or when all kings and the queens relinquish their crown. Okay, I'm going to read to you what I wrote into the YouTube, because I'm not really a writer. I'm more of a composer, and this just looked like you can tinker with compositions forever. I'm going to speak it, and it's going to be the end of it. I am going to tinker with it in future things, but this is my attempt to introduce myself in a respectful way on the lands of people who my ancestors conquered and stole from. And it's very, very dark. And I don't want to be dark about it. I want to be joyful. And the fact that I have this white Jesus face and I'm on these lands is very disturbing to me always. And so I just want to figure out a way to respectfully honor that. So each day in my classroom, I have a playlist, and I usually start with something like The Thing Above the Line. And so we are broadcasting from stolen Ramaytush Ohlone land near the site of the Yelamu summer camp, Chutchui. So I think I don't know if I talked through that already, but I'm not going to. At the Golden Gate of Turtle Islands. Turtle Island is the name that the indigenous people of this continent, the First Nations, have decided sort of in the collective consciousness to call the continent. And not everybody agrees. But I'm taking the lead of Mark Charles on this one, Turtle Island. And Wahrep is the, well, I'm just going to read. Wesley Peck was born on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish peoples, where the Skagit River meets the Pacific Ocean at Puget Sound. A bit over an hour drive from downtown Seattle, straight north on the 5 freeway. His birthplace is now known as Mount Vernon, Washington. He spent his early childhood there happily picking and eating the Arabian blackberries that grow like weeds all over the Pacific Northwest, and especially along riverbanks. Show. The descendants of the first peoples of Skagit Valley who were removed in order to establish Skagit County and the state of Washington are now part of the Swinomish Indian Tribal Community. So Swinomish or Swinomish, and it's really kind of, in my brain, it's hard to tell which is correct because I was surrounded by so many white people, but I think it's Swinomish Indian Tribal Community, which resides on reservation lands within Skagit County, which is my birthplace, again, as established by the Treaty of Point Elliott. The Treaty of Point Elliott was signed during the late Antebellum period in the West, outside of the South, between the raid on Harper's Ferry and the insurrection at Fort Sumter. During this period in California history, the 49ers were being paid to take scalps of indigenous people. Both of Wesley's parents were born and grew up on the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay, on the hills overlooking the valley, which sandwiches a small river that the locals called in their language Water Sweet. He spent most of his formative years there in the Sweetwater River Valley and the adjacent hills, starting at the age of 7, when his mother left Skagit Valley with her 2 children to return to her own place of birth. So my mother was born at Paradise Valley Hospital in San Diego. The neighborhood where he spent most of his adolescence stands overlooking the chaparral surrounding an artificial lake. So chaparral is like the desert. It's sort of green sometimes, but mostly just kind of brown weedy area. Lots of tumbleweed sort of stuff. Surrounding an artificial lake. The colonizers who built up San Diego in the late 19th century had dammed the Water Sweet, flooding parts of its valley while sucking the riverbed dry below the dam, all as part of a county-wide system designed to serve the needs of the owners of the orchards and the farms and the requirements of the growing white settler population of San Diego. I don't know the history, but the Kumeyaay had been forced into reservations, which now exist still. There's Viejas Reservation, Borona Reservation, Sequan, etc. The Sweetwater Reservoir, including its large concrete dam, is the only remaining visible feature of the Water Sweet River. There is a golf course in the floodplain below the dam, though, and a concrete line spillway that one can access from the mall parking lot. The Plaza Bonita Westfield Shopping Center, you can access the spillway where many of our houseless neighbors live. Wesley spent most of his adult life on the traditional lands of the Ohlone and currently resides in what is now known as San Francisco, near the site of the summer camp that Yelamu called Chutchui. So the camp is called Chutchui. The Chochenyo Ohlone on the east side of the San Francisco Bay, because you can suddenly see where the sun's coming from. The Chochenyo Ohlone used to refer to their neighbors living on the rather chilly and sandy peninsula Yelamu, which means in Chochenyo, the Western people. So while the East Bay Ohlone spoke Chochenyo and a few other languages, the Yelamu spoke Ramaytush, a language they shared with the people who lived with them on the sandy windswept peninsula. That's where I'm at right now. It's a peninsula. Modern day Ohlone largely refer to the Yelamu people and the southern neighbors together as the Ramaytush Ohlone because of the language groupings. The Ramaytush word for Mother Earth is Wahrep, So one way the original Bay Area peoples might have referred to this edge of the earth could have been Yelamu Wahrep, but we don't know. While many Ohlone continue to live and thrive on their ancestral lands here in the East Bay, it's really difficult to find out names for the names their ancestors used for places such as Twin Peaks or Half Moon Bay, Lake Merced or Alcatraz Island. I just picked a few things that I just have no idea, even though I've done a lot of research in other areas. As well as we understand from the remaining records, the Ohlone did not have a concept for ideas such as, let alone a word for, of the place we understand as California. I'll read that. It's a meaty sentence. As well as we understand from our remaining records, which is the genocide was almost complete. It was not. There's Ohlone thriving now. The Ohlone did not have a concept for ideas such as, let alone a word for, the place we understand as California. Ohlone is actually the name of a family of about 8 languages that are closely related to each other because the peoples interacted. Such as Ramaytush and Chutchui. Those are 2 of the 8 languages. And they were made of, the peoples were roughly 50 distinct groups of people who were not federated at all or anything. You could tell by the shell mounds that they were kind of distinct peoples, and they weren't federated by anything other than the lands and their languages that connected them. That's the way that it is in indigenous places, or in places with indigenous cultures that remain without disruption. The Chutchui campsite is located between what are now known as the Castro and Mission districts in San Francisco, so that's modern day San Francisco. And so the area is not very hospitable, actually. It's really cold, and the climate is changing, obviously, but maybe in the 1700s and before, it was mostly cold most of the time, but there's pockets. And if you live in the city, you will know that the Castro and the Mission are among the warmest, sunniest places in San Francisco, and there's these little microclimates. So it's natural that the peoples would migrate here during the summer. And so this Castro and Mission isn't really one neighborhood, it's more like North and South Camp Chutchui. And I live in North Camp Chutchui at as the hill starts to ascend up to what's called Corona Heights. I don't know what they call that either. So frustrating. Let's see. Let's move along here. I live near the giant rainbow flag, and I work just right nearby too. So I live the school here is on the flats, like almost right by where the campsite was. I know that because Mission Dolores is right where the campsite was, and that's a darker discussion. And we're right next to Mission Dolores. Wesley loves to hear the voices of people who come to Yelamu Wahrep to work, visit family, or vacation. They are from every corner of the earth and speak every language. Visitors come from Lushootseed lands every spring for the Tulip Festival, and travelers come from Kumeyaay lands to enjoy the ocean and the sky, share a craft beer with friends, or dress up for Comic-Con. And people go to these places for pride too. And people come to the Golden Gate, land stewarded by the Ohlone and the Miwok for thousands of years for many, many reasons. And they have for many reasons in history. Wesley came here to witness the beauty of creation, to enjoy the most beautiful creations of humanity, and to be himself. I'm a gay boy. I said that already. Wesley hopes that everyone will have the privilege to hear the beautiful symphony of voices again soon, here on the best coast of Turtle Island, just as soon as we beat this bug. Get your vaccinations and please wear your mask. Just wear the mask. You can wear the mask. It was a joke. I wore the mask just as a joke. You can do it. Just put the mask on like this. You can scrunch your face if you like. I don't like this. I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, how much time do we have? Oh, it's last song, friends. I'm not gonna do any of the shit that I suggested. I think this demonstrates my autobiographical whatever. I'm from Western Washington. I'm also from Southern California. The Kumeyaay people are split in half by that awful fortress that we call a border. Like it splits the Kumeyaay land in half. I will show it to you. I'm gonna mute myself because I don't need to speak anymore.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Break down. Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
I only got 4 minutes to save the world.